Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon or whatever time it may be in the time zone that you're joining us from. My name is Shelby Dale DeWeese. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Education and Community Engagement Manager at Minnesota Center for Book Arts. We're so grateful to have you join us for today's event called Love Local. I hope that you're all doing well today. I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Madeline Garcia, in just a couple of minutes. She's going to be teaching you 3 fun Valentine's pop-up cards. There is a link a few times in the chat to our Eventbrite page, and that has some more information about the materials that you'll need. But it's also, they're pretty flexible cards. So if you don't have those materials exactly, I think that for the most part, you should still be able to follow along with the lessons pretty well. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about MCBA and this event before we get started with that. So for those of you who don't know, Minnesota Center for Book Arts is a 35-year-old nonprofit arts center. We have studios and offices in the Open Book building in downtown Minneapolis. Our mission is to ignite artistic practice, inspire learning, and foster diverse creative communities through the book arts. And we do this by creating access to specialized book arts tools, equipment, and knowledge, supporting interdisciplinary artistic development, expanding opportunities for people who have been historically underrepresented in the field, and presenting exhibitions and educational programs that create connections around the art of the book, promote innovation, and advance the future of the field. Love Local is our annual Valentine themed event that is usually an open house in our studios in Minneapolis. And we're sorry that we can't gather there today, but we are very grateful that technology is enabling us to virtually gather so we can still host the event safely this year. I want to share that this activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a Minnesota State Arts Board operating support grant, thanks to legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. During today's event, as you've probably already noticed, your microphone and camera will remain turned off. As much as Madeline and I want to see your smiling faces as we would if this was in person, allowing everyone to share their video and audio during this large of an event would lead to distractions or internet bandwidth issues. And so we thank you for understanding about this. So Madeline will be guiding you through the step-by-step process for each pop-up card. If you do have a question about the lesson, you can use the chat, which many of you are already doing. You should be able to access it either on the sidebar of your Zoom screen, it might already be open, or otherwise it might be an option along the bottom of your screen. You can use that, for example, if you'd like Madeline to repeat a step that she's gone through already, or if you would like for her to slow down a little bit. And that's about all of it that I have for you. Thank you again for joining us today. Up next, I'm going to hand things over to MCBA lead teaching artist, Madeline Garcia.
Hi, folks. Oops. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Shelby, for that warm introduction. My name is Madeline Garcia, going on 5 years being involved with Minnesota Center for Book Arts, and I'm so thankful for that. I just want to give a special shout out to everyone who followed along during the fold-alongs and also the Mail is Magic series, as well as all of the kids who I have done and do book arts with. So thank you all so much for being here. We have 3 awesome pop-out books that we are going to make today, but I first want to talk about all of the tools that you will need to make them. Shelby, if you don't mind spotlighting my desk, that would be wonderful. Here we are. So the first tool that you will need today is a pair of scissors. Any pair will do. A pencil, a glue stick, and a bone folder. You could also use a spoon or a knife or just something smooth and long as a replacement. You will also need a ruler. And I always recommend using waste sheets, and that's to protect your surface and keep glue only in the places we want it in your cards. So I'm going to move these aside and show you the first book that we will be making. I'm going to turn off my face so you can just see below. The first card we're going to be making is a flower bouquet card. This is an angle fold pop out. And for this card, we will need 2 sheets of paper, a 5.5 by 8.5 sheet and a 5 1/4 by 8 1/4 inch sheet, or you could just use 2 5.5 by 8.5s. Not trying to confuse anyone. I think a few of the kits have 2 of the same size. Either work. So go ahead and get those 2 sheets of paper out. The color doesn't matter. One will be the outside of the card, which you'll see a little bit when you look into the pop out. And so it's up to you if you want to use same or different colors. So the first step we'll do is to fold these in half. And when I am teaching book arts, I always advise to use the hold and fold technique. Once again, the sizes are 5.5 by 8.5 inches and 5 1/4, or sorry, 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. And someone will put that in the chat, but it's okay if your pieces of paper are the same size as well. Okay, so I recommend the hold and fold technique, and that is always to hold one edge of the paper down. I'm holding one of the shorter edges. And to curl the other side over, I'm always holding it down so that the paper doesn't move around. It doesn't matter which size paper you're starting with. And then I'm going to crease the fold with my finger and then come in with my bone folder. And I hold a bone folder with 4 fingers on one side and my thumb on the other side, just like a comb. And I'll start in the center and just go up and down like that. For this, the color would be inside if you're using a decorative paper. So I'm going to go ahead and fold my other piece the same way. Taking my time, I always want to make sure that the corners line up right on top of each other. I'm going to crease with my fingers and then come in with that bone folder one time. So right now you should have 2 pieces of paper that look like this. Go ahead and fold these now if you haven't already done so. I realize I should have told you to watch me and then I should have passed it over to you. So I will do that for the rest of the steps. And just so you're aware, we're just going to be folding the bones of these structures today, just the basis, the forms of them, but then you'll decorate them on your own time. So hopefully everyone has their 2 pieces of paper folded like this. If yours are 2 different sizes, you'll see that they fit snugly in each other, just like this. It's a little bit hard to see because of the white, but there's a little margin that can run around them. Great. I'm going to set the bigger sheet aside. This would be the piece of card that would go on the outside. It would be the cover. And I'm just going to focus on this inner piece of our card. And I'm going to fold it back in half. So I'm looking at the outside. And with my pencil, I am going to sketch out what is going to be the bottom part of the bouquet. So for this part, you're going to want to sketch this out on the lower half of the paper. And I'm just sketching out a curve here, which will be the top. And then I'm kind of imagining how it will fold open like this. You won't want to make your, and I can hold this up so everyone can see. You won't want to make your bouquet too big or you'll have no room for your flowers. So go ahead and sketch this on your own card. And this pencil mark will be hidden, so you won't have to worry about it showing for your card at all. And I will try and draw a little darker so it is easier for folks to see. Okay, and now I'm going to come in with my scissors and I'm going to cut just on the top part, just on the curved part of this bouquet. And I'm going to cut through both pieces of paper. I'm starting here on the folded edge and I'm just going around that curve. We're drawing the bouquet on the smaller piece of paper out of the 2. So you should have something that looks like this. the next step we're going to do is to fold alongside this line. And you can even take your ruler here and line it up. And if you wanted to, you could take the pointed edge of your bone folder and to score that, which is just running it along the ruler. And that might help you to fold. You can then reverse the fold. So you should have something that looks like this. And then when you open your card up, you should be able to pop that bouquet forward just like so. And you can close it for good measure. I'm actually going to take my bone folder and go along that fold to secure it. I encourage you to do the same. And you'll have something that looks like this. So you can already start to envision how you could draw some flowers here. Maybe you want to color this and draw a little note card and it says who the flowers are to. The next step that we'll do is to glue this onto the outer shell of the card. And to do that, I'm going to pull in a waste sheet. And I'm just going to glue one side of the card first. So I'm going to close it, get out my glue stick. I encourage you to follow along. We're just going to glue on one side of the inner part of the card. So I'm applying my glue stick nice and flat. Go ahead and apply glue to all of one side. Make sure to get those corners. I'll wait a second. Yep, I can slow down. I'll wait a second for everyone to glue one of their sides. And then I'm going to fold this waste sheet in half to trap the glue that I got in here, and so it doesn't get on my table at all. And the next thing I'll do is to line up the center fold here with the center line of my outer card. I'm going to center it. And I'm actually just going to shut the book and that will put it into place. Ooh. And then I'm going to open it up and take my bone folder and secure it. Make sure. Okay. So right now I just have one half of the inner part of the card glued in. The next step will be to glue the other side. So you can actually put a waste sheet under most of it, and that will protect the rest of the card from getting glue on it. And we'll just apply glue to this whole side now. So go ahead and glue the other side. Once you've done that, I'm going to put away my waste sheet. And I kind of like to crumple it up so I know not to use it anymore. And then to secure this side in place, you'll just close the card. I'm going to put some weight on it. And then I'll open it up and bone fold it down. Go ahead and do the same. And it should look just like so. All right, so this is essentially all of the folding and gluing for this bouquet card, this angle fold, so it's called. The next steps would be to embellish, which just means to decorate, which I'm not going to show you since we have two other cards to get to, but I would recommend drawing on here, drawing those flowers behind there, and of course, leaving a message. I want to show those samples I have of it just to inspire you. So here's that pink one, which we saw before. It says sending love. And I actually took tissue paper, just like you would wrap up a regular old bouquet of flowers, and glued that in. I'm a big fan of cut paper. You'll see that in most of my examples, but really you should just do whatever is comfortable for you. So if you want to use colored pencils, or maybe you want to do this with thick paper and watercolor it. That's a great idea too. I have one more example. And this one, I had some fun vintage wrapping paper that I used. So I just cut out some flowers here and it says, "Hey Valentine, I love you." And this paper is actually from a bagel shop, and a bagel was wrapped in it. But I just loved the color so much that I saved it, and lo and behold, it's perfect for a bouquet card. So I would encourage all of you to find papers wherever you see them and put them to good use. So in this example, the outside of the card and the inside of the card were the same paper size, so that is why they are lining up. However, in the pink example, the inner card is a little bit smaller, so depending if your papers were the same size or not, that's what you might see on the edges. Either work. And then the last thing, which I haven't even done yet, would be to decorate the front covers. That is something that I often leave to the last step, especially with pop-outs, because I'm focused on all the goodness on the inside. So hopefully folks are ready to move on to the next book. This one is a little bit more, the next card. This one is a little bit more complex. And this one is our nesting accordion card, or accordion with pop-ups inside of it. This one is super fun. And for this card, you'll need a 4.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper and a 4.5 by 7 inch sheet of paper. So go ahead and get those out. The 2 sheets of paper do not have to be the same color. You could see here in this example that I chose black. And I used purple paper on the inside. All right, I'm gonna move on to start working on this card. So let's start with the small piece. And I'm gonna wait a moment as per request in the chat. The small piece is going to be the outside of the card. It's going to be the card cover. And the sizes for that are in the chat. It's a 4.5 by 11 inch sheet and a 4.5 by 7 inch sheet. Okay, I'm going to start with the small piece of paper, and we're going to fold it in half just like we did before, hamburger style, and we'll take extra time and care to make sure those corners line up. I'm going to crease the fold with my finger first, and then come back in with my bone folder, just 1 or 2 times, and voila, that is the outside of our card. I'm going to set this aside and wait just a moment for everyone to get up to speed. The next piece of paper we're going to be folding is our 4.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper. And I came up with the dimensions of this card based on wanting to make it easy for you. So a 4.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper is just an 8.5. Oh, I guess that doesn't make sense. Well, it's all small enough paper that you would have on hand at home, I think. But of course, you could recreate any of these cards with bigger sizes of paper. So for the cover, you would probably want, if you were using a decorative paper, that to be on the outside. And I will show you just a moment when we start folding this where the decorative side would be. Okay, I think we should start. For this one, go ahead and fold the paper in half. You want your decorative side up. If you have a sheet of paper that is decorative. So we're just going to fold this one in half to start. I'm going to run my finger down and bone fold that, and I'll wait for you to do the same. Once your sheet is folded in half, You can set it up like a mountain fold. You can see why this looks like a mountain here. And then you can flatten it. All right, and this next step is going to require a little bit of measuring. So go ahead and get your ruler out and also a pencil. Okay. From the center fold that we have made, we're going to measure 1.5 inches on either side of it. So I'm just going to make a little mark here. It's 1.5 inches to the right. I'll make mine really dark so you can see it, but yours does not need to be dark at all. So we have 1.5 inches to the right and 1.5 inches to the left. The next thing I'm going to do is line my ruler up on the inside of that 1.5 inch mark. And I'm just starting with the right-hand side. It's probably because I'm right-handed. And I'm going to take my bone folder and do a quick score there. And that is optional. Something that you might find easier when you're folding this is to just lift this side of the paper up and run your finger on it. So once again, on this 1.5 inch mark, I just lined up my ruler and I'm folding this sheet of paper alongside it so that there's 1.5 inches between the center fold and this new fold. I'm going to spin this piece of paper around and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to score that line really quick, which is optional. And then I'm going to fold this by running my finger along under it, just like so. So at this point, you should have what looks like a witch's hat or a traffic cone with a really long base. I'll wait just a minute for everyone to get to this point. And I don't think these pencil marks will show, but I'm just going to go ahead and erase mine for good measure. All right, at this point, we are just going to take our sheet of paper and flip it over so that now we will just have a little valley. And the next step will be to measure 1.5 inches from either side of these new folds we have made. Okay. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches out on both sides. Once again, we are working on the side that looks like a valley.
Someone has asked which side should be the decorative paper if you have a paper with two different sides.
I believe the decorative paper should be facing up right now. Yep. Yes, that is true. Took me a second there. I guess I should have done my example with the decorative piece of paper. All right, now that we have these 1.5 inch marks, we're going to do the same thing we did, which is to line our ruler up with them, score if you like, and then to run our finger over so that we have a fold on that mark. We'll do the same thing to the other side. So right now you should have something that looks just like this. And I'm gonna close it all the way and take my bone folder and just go over the whole card one time, maybe twice, to secure all those folds I just made. So you can start to imagine it will open just like this. I can show the sample. Looks pretty similar at this point. The next thing we'll do is to cut these pop outs. Right here, we just have successfully made an accordion. So to make the pop outs, we're gonna flip this over so that we have the side with 3 mountains. It's really crucial here that everyone is on the back side of the book, the card. You should be looking at 3 mountains at this point. Okay. The final step we'll be doing is to cut these pop out parts. And it'll be your choice for how long and wide you want them. And that is based on how far you cut and how much you distance your cuts between each other. But to make a pop out, we're gonna draw 2 sets of parallel lines. So I'm just gonna rotate this 90 degrees and I'm gonna plan it out. And I'll draw it dark so everyone can see. There is my set of parallel lines. They're a little uneven. That's okay. I think there's beauty in things not being perfect. Of course, if you wanted to take your ruler out right now and measure 2 lines that were the same length and maybe centered, you could do that. So go ahead and just draw 2 lines. The longer you make the lines, the longer the pop out will pop. And this is, I'm gonna guess, the first time you're making this card or this type of book. So if it doesn't come out perfect, that makes a lot of sense. I made a bunch of these before I made these examples. It's a learning process. So I'm gonna cut alongside these lines. That's gonna be the next step. And we're actually gonna cut through 2 pieces of paper here. We're gonna cut through both sheets of paper for this first mountain. So I'm gonna hold this up and make 2 straight lines, just like so, a set of parallel lines. And then I'm gonna bring those together and I'm gonna fold them all the way up, just like this. So I just took them and folded them to the left, and now I'm gonna fold them to the right. And then you'll see that actually if you push those forward now, we've successfully made the first pop out. I'm gonna repeat these steps 2 more times, so if you're a little confused, please don't worry about it. I gotcha. And feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. So I'm gonna move on to this middle mountain fold, and I'm gonna draw 2 more lines. I think I want them to be the same size as that first pop out. Mine look like this. And I'm gonna cut through the center mountain fold here through both sheets of paper. My lines are about 1 inch long. I'm gonna bring them together and fold the pop out to the left and then fold it to the right. I'm gonna flip the card to the other side and just pop this middle structure forward. So we're 2/3 out of the way, 2/3 down. I'm gonna flip it back over and go to that last pop out. Have that set of parallel lines there. And I'll do the same thing by folding it forward. Folding it the other way. Pushing that pop out forward. So it'll look just like this. And once you've cut all 3 pops, go ahead and gently close your card. I keep wanting to say book, and that is probably from teaching so many book classes. I'm going to take my bone folder and secure that center part. And it should look just like this. It looks really similar to the example. And the last step, which we don't want to do quite yet, will be to glue the left and the right sides to the left and the right sides of our cover. Now, I do want to stop for a second before we move on and just note that if you're going to draw or even glue on your card, I'm going to pause here because I think I'm moving a little quickly. I'm not doing anything, I'm just talking through right now. You're going to want to do the embellishing and the decorating stage at this point, because once you glue this accordion pop out into the cover of your card, you'll see it becomes very 3D and it's pretty hard to glue on here. Okay, if I'm moving too fast for anyone, you can just let me know in the comments. I see that now. So at this point, I'm hoping that everyone has cut their 3 sets of parallel lines, pushed those pop out forwards, and has their nesting accordion, just like so. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just write on mine. I would encourage you to take your time after, but I just wanna show you how you would finish this card. And once this class is over and you have the time to embellish it, what you would do. And I'm just writing, I heart you, but you could write any old phrase here. Maybe you want to write someone's initials. Maybe you just want to do hearts. Maybe you want to spell love incorrectly and do LUV. That is up to you. So now would be the time, if we weren't in this class, where you would take your time, you could draw on your background. Maybe you want to cut out letters and glue them on, just like me. I'm going to move forward for the sake of showing you how to glue this to your cover. When you do get to that step, you'll want to have a waste sheet out. And when you close your book, you'll see that the outside covers look just like this. Let's see, I'm going to use 2 sheets of paper and slide a waste sheet of paper under to protect the rest of my card. And then I'm just applying a thin layer of glue to this outer side. Found a little glue booger here, as I call them, and I want to make sure that that does not get into my card. I've glued up a whole side, and I'm just going to place this on the inside of the card cover so that this outer piece, oh, and I want to make sure it's reading from left to right, these outer corners line up with the corners on the inside of our card. So this is going on the inside so that these corners line up perfectly. All right, should look just like this. And now I'm going to add glue to the other side of our accordion part. I'm going to use waste sheets, as I always do, to protect my work surface. This work mat is actually, I use it for sewing too, so I really don't want to get any glue on it. Okay, And then I'm going to take this newly glued end of my accordion and line that up with the other edge of my cover, just like so. And then I'm going to bone fold it in to secure that glue. So once you get to this stage, it'll look just like this. You should be able to close your book. And when you open it up, you'll get those awesome accordion pieces, those pop outs. Like I said, yeah, feel free to spend your time decorating these. This isn't my proudest card. I do have one other example I want to show you. And I just think this card is so cute. I cut out letters, but then I realized that I liked the outside of them first. So this is something design choice I made. All right. And I think that we will move on to the last card. Hopefully everyone has been following me up to this point and is ready to do that. I'm gonna get these gluey waste sheets out of the way. And let me show you the example of the last card. It's a big pop-up and it says love. This is a V fold card. You'll see when I hold it this way, you see that V shape. You can obviously choose what word it is that you want to spell out. However, I thought love worked really well here. So for this last card, you will need a 5.5 by 8.5 inch sheet. It can be any color. And a 3.5 by 7 inch sheet. And Shelby will put those dimensions into the chat in case anyone is a little lost. Thank you, Shelby. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and start the way we've started the last 3 cards by folding the cover, the card cover first, and that is this bigger sheet. So we'll use the hold and fold technique, holding half down and folding the other side in half. I'm taking my time, lining those corners up. I'm going to slide my finger over to the crease and then come in with my bone folder one time. If you are using decorative paper, you'll have to decide where you want your decorative paper to be. Do you want it to be on the outside of your card? In which case, when you fold it in half, it would be on the outside. Or do you want it to be the inside of the card under your pop-out letters? In which case, it would be on the inside when you fold in half. So I'm going to leave that choice up to you. Once you've folded your card in half, you can set that aside and get out your other sheet of paper, which is the 3.5 by 7.5 inch piece. And we are going to do a bit more measuring, so go ahead and get out your ruler for this step. The first thing we're going to do is to make a 1 inch margin or tab going a long ways on this small piece of paper. So I'm going to measure out 1 inch. Oh my gosh, there's a little pencil mark. I must have already walked myself through this. And then I'm going to bring my ruler in, line it up with that 1 inch mark, and use my bone folder or my bone folder substitute to make a nice score there. If you're using decorative paper here, thank you for reminding me, you'll want the decorative side down, though either way it will work out. So I have 1 inch measured here, and I have already creased it. I'm going to extend this fold here. so that I have something that looks like this. There's a 1-inch tab running along this side. I think I'll even bone fold that tab down to reinforce that 1-inch tab. You can go ahead and do the same. All right. I am going to flip this piece of paper over so that the 1-inch tab is pointing up. If you're using decorative paper, the decorative paper would be facing down. The first fold I made was just a 1-inch tab that went along the long side. So we measured 1 inch and then we folded. My tab is facing up. My paper looks just like this, and I'm going to fold this piece of paper in half. As always, I'm going to crease it with my finger and then bone fold it so that I have something that looks just like this. Both of my folds are mountain folds. Here is what this paper looks like at this point. I'll wait for everyone to get up to speed. And you'll start to realize that this 1-inch tab is going to be the tab that holds and supports our message, whatever your message may be. So looking at this piece of paper, you'll see the 2 creases, the 2 folds intersect here, and there's this 1-inch piece of fold. We are going to cut alongside that, or along that crease, and stop at this intersection of 4 folds so that we have something that looks like this. Maybe this is like a little legs of an animal walking towards us. Okay. The next step here is we're gonna cut the corners off of this 1-inch tab so that when they are placed back, they're not intersecting and they're out of our way. So on this 1-inch margin here, I'm just gonna take my scissors and make a 45-degree angle cut, just like so, and I'm gonna do the same to the other side. Go ahead and do that. And then you can start to imagine and you can see how this tab is not overlapping now. For good measure, I'm also going to cut off these 2 corners here. The smaller paper that I'm cutting right now is a 3.5 by 7-inch sheet of paper. Yours should look just like this. Maybe this is a paper puppet's 2 front teeth here. All right. So I'm not going to glue anything yet, but I just want to show you, and so you start to understand the mechanics of this book, that this piece of paper, the tabs fold down, and eventually they'll be glued onto the card at an angle so that when the card is opened, there'll be a message here. Let's see if I can mimic how the book closes. These will come down and the card will close and they'll pop back up. So hopefully everyone is with me here at these stages, at this stage. The next step is to decorate the message and cut that out. I'm going to start first by tracing or sketching out whatever I want to pop up. So I will sketch out this LOVE message. I'm going to sketch out two just to show you two different options. You do not have to do love. My other example for this book is this one that says be mine, and then I drew some little sweetheart candies. And it says all of the time, be mine, all of the time. I thought that was cute. And you'll notice with the two different examples, for this one, I cut out the letter forms completely, which is a little bit more complex and painstaking. And for this one, which I would actually recommend, I just wrote a message and cut out around it. I sort of left an outline, which is a lot easier. If you are going to go this option, you will need for your letters to connect at every point. They can't be freestanding or the card won't pop up, they'll just fall down. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to do the LOVE one, the love one, and then I'll make one other one. But feel free at this point to start sketching out what you would like to pop up in your card. And for the love one, I am making it so the L and the O touch. And I guess the V and the E need to as well. And I am definitely moving a little bit quicker than I normally would if I was doing this at home. So feel free to take your time and just watch and follow how I finish it. Yeah, you don't want to rush your card. So I'm cutting along the letters here. There's that L. Working on the O. Is anyone spelling out anything different? Do they want to share what they're spelling out in the chat? I'm sure there are plenty other great little Valentine's phrases to say. All right. So here's that LOVE. I'm actually going to come in from the bottom of the tab and cut the rest of the part. Oh my goodness, Leo's doing XOXO. I love that. That would be another great thing to try. You could also do a letter that goes across this center fold here. And just when the card opens, the letter will just be sort of split along two axes. So I think that's great. All right. I'm going to keep cutting. The O and the V are connected. Oh my goodness. Hugs would be so cute. I love that idea. And I'm working a little bit cautiously because there needs to be a tab here for this V. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, I would recommend connecting your O and your V a little bit more than I'm doing here. But there's that LOVE. Each of the letters has their own tabs, which is a little trickier, but it'll still work. I'm gonna set this aside and sketch one other message. I have a pre-cut piece here, just as you are doing your own. Okay, and I think I'm gonna go for that split message where a character is split along the two halves of the paper, just to see what that's like. Of course, as I said earlier, you could just write your message and then cut alongside it, which is definitely easier. Yeah, maybe I will do that. And I am putting quite a bit of pencil here on my card. If you were afraid of the pencil staying, if you were working in pen, I would definitely recommend using the back side. You would have to write backwards, but then cutting out so that you wouldn't see any pencil mark. And I do also want to say, like, for future cards that you are making of this sort, you could make them any size. I just chose to do a 1-inch tab because I thought that sounded nice, but you could make these on a smaller scale. You could actually make multiple ones that are in the same plane, that use the same card. So there's a lot of experimenting to be done. So in just a moment, I'm going to show you the next steps on how to secure this into the cover of your card, the outer card. And if I wasn't teaching this class and I was working at my own pace, someone cut the L off. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Well, you could try gluing it together or just start out with a new piece. Like I said earlier, first time making any of these cards, they probably won't be perfect. Mine weren't. If I was working on my own time right now, I would take this time to embellish and decorate this completely. I would have my markers out or my colored pencils, and I would do that before I glued it in, because once you glue it in, it becomes 3D and it's definitely hard to embellish. Okay. I'm gonna glue in the LOVE just because it's a little bit more complex. But the premise is that you apply glue to this top side of your tabs and then place those in the card at a V shape, so that when the card closes, they fold down flat. One thing that is important to note before you start gluing, and I'm going to walk you through gluing it, is that the message needs to be towards the back of the card. If you glue it towards the front, when the card closes, the message will stick out of it. So once again, you want to place this towards the back of the card, which is also great because it gives you room up here to write your message. So I'm going to lay my message down, and I'm going to apply glue just this top side of all of these tabs. You might be doing this now with me, or probably you'll do this without me later, but please note what I'm doing here. So when the time comes, you're ready. Okay. I'm gonna pull this away from my gluey sheet of paper, which I'm gonna toss. And I'm gonna take these and bring them at that V shape, that 45-degree angle. And I'm gonna place them so that the center fold here is in line with the center fold of our card. So once again, this fold is lining up with this fold. And that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to take my bone folder and secure those tabs. And it'll look just like this. This one is pretty crude because I was working quickly. Something to keep in mind is that if you're using a glue stick, these are likely still wet and it's going to take some time for them to dry and secure. So I wouldn't recommend going too crazy popping out this card quite yet, but it's good to check that it closes properly, which it does. And I am just going to leave this card open for it to dry out in place. And I will show you that other example I have one last time to inspire you. Be mine all the time. I had a lot of fun writing little sweetheart messages here. And here is that LOVE card. Does anyone have any final questions about this structure or any other of the card structures that I can answer? Can you go over how to glue the second card? Are folks referring to this card or the second LOVE card? The accordion. Okay. Yes, I can show that one more time. And I can also show how to glue this in. And then after that, I will pass it over to Shelby. But for this piece, for this card, I just glued along the top, the front side of the tabs. And I used a waste sheet. And then I held the message at a V shape at a 45-degree angle, lining up this fold with the center fold. And I secured those tabs. Okay, I'm going to briefly show how to glue together this accordion. One more time. I know people are probably cringing right now that I'm taking these apart, but they're samples, so that's okay. And thank you all for the sweet comments. I'm so happy to be with you all on this Saturday. One more time, I'm just showing how to glue the accordion in. And happy Valentine's to everyone. I do want to just say, we're at the perfect time right now. It's January 30th, so there's plenty of time to still make these and get them out in the mail. Shelby, did you want to say any closing remarks as I'm showing off how to glue this in again?
Sure. I will just use my voice so you can keep looking at Madeline if you're following along with that gluing. I want to thank Madeline for your instruction today, and also every one of you for joining us and making Valentines together. We wish we could be together in person, but we're glad that we were able to work with all of you safely from Portugal and Spain and New York and Boston and many other places I saw in the chat. My colleague Amani is sharing some links in the chat for ways to stay involved. Please share pictures of your cards with us when you're finished with them. You can post them online and tag at MNBookArts or email them to virtualworkshops@mnbookarts.org. If you love today's event with Madeline, I would encourage you to sign up for some upcoming family workshops that we have next Saturday, February 6th. Those are Origami Valentines for Families and Let's Make Puppets. The registration for those workshops closes tomorrow. So if you are interested, you can go ahead and register for those. We have also on our website other workshops for families and adults, information on how to become a member of MCBA, and an online shop if you would like any art supplies or artworks by members of our community. And so I'll add to Madeline's well wishes that we thank you for being here and wish you a happy Valentine's Day. And Madeline, was there anything else that you wanted to show off?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining everyone and following along. And happy Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.